We are live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournament Takes Podcast, Week 2 edition. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, screen name Kirk D's. I am here with two of my boys from Massachusetts along here. First off, we've got the Zumba instructor, CrossFit owner, entrepreneur, multimillionaire, the guy who buried me with Aaron Jones last week, JSU Rab. What's up, my man? Welcome back.
Well, I got this shirt on. I feel good. I've got my JSU shirt rocking. And if you don't know, I mean, obviously my nickname is JSU, but what do you guys think this actually stands for that I bought it for? What do you think? Where do you think I got this? You'll never guess.
Isn't it like that's like a college abbreviation, right?
Damn it, Bobby. Do you know what college it is?
I just would imagine JSU sounds like. I do actually. I don't know.
Come on.
Recently, and I thought JSU. I don't know why. What college?
Kirkwood, you know what college it is?
I was going to say Jewish Community Center or something. Or like
no, Jackson State University. But
Nice.
It goes well with my nickname. So
Yeah,
I bought them, and it's JSU's t-shirts or sweatshirts. So that's what I'm going with. Feel good. I feel really good now that I buried you with my Aaron Jones take. So that makes me feel even better because Kirkwood, messaging me and Bobby Sunday night. Me and Bobby are like, yeah, it was a rough week. And Kirkwood just goes on and he's like, yeah, actually, I won. So it was a good week for me. And just owned me and Bobby as me and Bobby are like, telling them how we had terrible weeks. And Kirkwood's like, yeah, my week was it was really good.
Well, for those that don't know, JSU is with Run Pure Sports. He's the man over there with his boy Big T. Shout out to Big T for the old. I love that he's having the most amazing run in DFS of all time. I love it for all the haters because he's a good dude. And then my other co-host here, we got Bobby Gomes back. This is the threesome. Bobby Gomes, DFS. What's cracking, my man? Millionaire maker winner. I know you're deep in the rainmaker streets here. I know you got at least your Saquon went up last week. I know you got a nice Saquon. Legendary, is it?
Yeah, nice. I got the RM for Saquon, but it means
you got the RM.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. My teams are just total dust. But anyways, yeah, last week was interesting. Rough week for me. Chalk hit like that, like it hit at a point I didn't expect for that on week one. And then I got my car stolen on Sunday, so that was fantastic.
No,
right in front of my house. Yeah, I got it back.
I got towed. I got towed yesterday. I had to go to a tow disco and grab my car. But you got your car stolen,
like right out in front of my building. Yeah, stolen. Girlfriend left the keys in the car. Baby was crying. Next morning, wasn't there. Called the tow company. Ended up in Southie trying to get my car out of D&D Towing, which is a very shady place, by the way. Just all day today. I was there for like 2 hours. Yeah,
car was fine. Car was okay.
Car was fine. The inside of it wasn't. There was a crack pipe. I could go. There was a bunch of paraphernalia that was like, yeah. Whoever got in this, it was like Dirty Mike and the boys, pretty much. Yeah, it wasn't a good look. But maybe I can turn around this week. Luck's. I got variance on my side. Rough week last week. Hopefully, good week this week.
Yeah, I had a nice week. Can't lie, boys. Like I was saying, I was like, I had 100%. Like I played in my main Yahoo. That's where I played primarily was over in Yahoo. I did a little DK, but I had Aaron Jones and Kyle Pitts, and I still made money because only me and one other person thought it was a good idea to click on Justin Jefferson. Who just took us home. So that's really all you needed because everyone else played CMC and went a little bit cheaper at wide receiver. And so I hit it right. So that was nice, but nothing crazy. The big weeks are going to be here for us. We need to get a big bank in one of these large field tournaments. And we've got a crazy slate to do it this time. It's kind of a interesting slate. The more I look at it, doesn't like we don't have like a ton of like the great high upside quarterbacks. Like there's obviously like Lamar and Kyler and stuff, but we're missing a bunch of guys that, because Josh Allen's on the Monday slate. We're missing like Derrick Henry for running back. And who else played? Who else are we missing? Well, we missed the Kansas City Chiefs game and the Chargers game. So like a bunch of the high-powered offenses aren't on the slate, which should make it maybe this will be the week where chalk doesn't smash everywhere and Bobby crushes. But yeah, Pittman was crazy, huh? Like, I mean, he was like the most obvious like GPP fade for like the ownership reasons, and he just absolutely nuked it in everybody's face.
Especially with the opportunity cost in that range. The range is absolutely loaded. Running back and wide receiver, and he just totally 30 points. You really can't do nothing in that situation, I feel like.
What was crazy about a few of those guys like A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman, they were owned. I was expecting them to be a lot higher actually than what they ended up being. And I think it was just the fact that there were so many of them in good spots. I mean, Christian Kirk had a really nice game. He had some ownership. I just think at the end of the day, we should have all like listened to ourselves when we said how ownership would spread. I just thought everyone was not going to be able to resist the Pittman, especially Pittman like price tag. But the ownership wasn't as high as I actually thought it was going to be. Like it should have been higher, right? Am I wrong here, guys?
It's because it was too obvious of like a GPP fade, and so everybody had the same thought. And for
so
GPPs.
It actually made it like a better play in GPPs because the ownership got held in check by all the sharp people touting to. This is where we can always like go back and look at that. I think this is what some people don't do that they should do more of is making sure they go back and just look at their process and look at what happened the week before on these type of weeks. And make like mental notes or literally make notes if you want to. But like sometimes when everyone's saying to fade the obvious play, who's an obvious value, and you get him at an ownership discount of 15% when he should be 30, that's actually a massive actual advantage in tournaments. And I think more people should do it. I know I do it. I go back and look at my process week in and week out and say, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And in pretty much every week, you're going to do certain things right and certain things wrong. You got to be able to go back and critique yourself. And that's something that I feel like a lot of players don't do. And that's where like I will go look at what other good players did. And I've done this for years. I used to do it when I first started way back in like 2014 and 15. I'd look at all the top players from CSU, all those guys. I'd study their lineups. I'd look at what they're doing and, try and figure out, where I could maybe, catch something that they're consistently doing to help my own process. And I think that's something that a lot of people should do. And you were talking about my guy, Big T, who's on a heater right now. I mean, whatever he's doing, you might want to go check out his process and all his stuff. Cause he's been smashing, but yeah, I mean, I just think it's something that's interesting. I think we got it wrong, and I'm okay saying it now, like not because he went off, because the ownership wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and I think that's where I got it wrong.
I think you hit on something really important, and it was A.J. Brown at the top. Basically, just going over your process after the week's over. I think that's like what you have to do and be critical about in terms of like yourself and building teams. But the A.J. Brown, just specific for me, like when Marquise Brown became chalk in that range, A.J.'s ownership like dipped. I think he was 10% in the millie. And I think that was a mistake. Like, I tried to get more late, but I definitely didn't get enough.
He was like Reggie. 10%. Reggie. the wife's trying to get Reggie to go upstairs.
No, I want Reggie here.
Yeah, Kirkwood's mad at you, hon. He wants Reggie on the show. Right, I don't think we'll see if
he's always welcome, open arms. You know what I love about Big T? I'm just saying the last thought. You know what I know because you two are on the same school with me. Like all three of us, it's safe to say we watch a lot of sports. And you know what I hate about the DFS? Like, you ever been to like live finals and you start talking with some of the other players and stuff, and they're like, there's this like group of people who thinks it's like a badge of honor to be like, I don't watch any sports. I don't even know the name of this player, like that. And it's like
every time I go, I meet someone new who says that exact same thing.
Exactly.
And it drives me fucking nuts.
They brag about it. Like, it's like, I don't care. Like, there's definitely an edge to like being like data driven and numbers and lineup building and all that. There's also an edge with picking up things from live sports that you watch a lot. And there's like projections and intuition, that combination is what really makes him. Big T's that guy. He's always been that guy. He can, so I love that. Like, throw it all back in the nerds' faces. You know what I mean? Anyways, but let's figure out how we're going to win this week. It's week 2. Like I said, it's an interesting slate. There's only one game over a 50-point total, and that's Arizona at the Raiders. The Raiders are 5.5-point total, 5.5-point favorites, 51.5-point total. It's a little scary considering how Arizona looked last week, and they're even thinner this week at wide receiver, but we'll get into that. The next game right there, there's like one in its like own range at a 48.5-point total. That's Washington Commanders at Detroit. Carson Wentz broke the slate last week, which was crazy. But this could definitely be like one of those like double bad teams in NBA where like it just shoots out this game. However, it could also be a game where like you get all high on one of these 2 bad team games and they both just stink. So like it's be interesting to hear your takes on that. There's also then there's a few in like this range, 45.5 to 46.5. That's Atlanta at the Rams. Rams are 10-point total. Rams looked awful opening against Kansas City, but we got some information at least from that. At least looks like from the running back position, like everyone was high on Cam Akers over Darrell Henderson, but then Akers looks like he's not even barely going to even play. But we'll talk about that. Houston at Denver, 45.5. Houston with a big win, right? Played a lot more competitively and good than we thought they would.
Denver, they tied, right?
Yeah. Sorry, a win is a tie. A tie is a win for them,
especially for Houston. A tie is a win.
Yeah.
No, what are you guys talking about? A tie is like the worst thing in sports. Nobody wants a tie. I rather take an L. No one wants a tie. I want to see a winner at the end of my sporting event. There should never be a tie in professional sports. No professional athlete should accept the tie. Like, I don't care what they have to do for sudden death of overtime, but find a way to finish the damn game. Like, someone needs to win and lose.
Like, put a
tie. That's funny, Jesse.
They should do field goals. They should do like a start out at like 65-yard field goal. If any of them hits it, they win.
It's like starting a runner at second base in baseball. Like, find a way to make it an end. Find a way to.
I say you just do it. It's like a penalty kick, but a field goal kick.
I thought JSU was a big participation awards guy.
That's what God, I'm the worst with that because I would take that trophy and friggin' throw it out the window when my kid got it if he got a participation. This is why, thank God, I don't have kids right now.
Wow, no, you were already foreshadowing there.
These are the dads on the show. I'm just the other guy, I'm just the idiot that got married. These are the dads.
For now.
Shout out to little Bobby Jr., BJ, and shout out to my man DK, Dylan, who's pissed in my face multiple times this week already. It's pandemonium, I keep saying.
You guys missed it too, but pre-show, Kirkwood's got like napkins, and it just he's like dapping his face and wiping stuff off his face as I'm coming on. And he's like, I just come on, and he goes, my friggin' kid, it's pandemonium here. Right? He's pissing on me and shitting on me, and he's just wiping his face the whole time.
There's nothing worse than a blowout. A blowout is
baby. I had to deal with a blowout yesterday. It's pretty intense.
All right, back to football. So then we got, in Denver's 10-point favorites, and they looked horrendous against Seattle, which was crazy. Indiana are the Colts against Jacksonville, 45-point total. Then there's Miami at Baltimore, 44.5. Tampa Bay, small favorite at New Orleans, 44.5. And then some other games are even lower. So we don't have any big total games, really. We just have that one Arizona Raiders, and there's some worry there. But the first thing I do is like actually, let's talk about – so how does like a big picture slate, how does it look to you, Bobby, so far?
Yeah, so I think there's a ton of opportunity cost at running back. I think that's where a lot of the chalk's going to be. And it seems like it's going to be a lower scoring slate than what we had last week, especially when you hit on the totals. I just don't think it's going to take a little bit, not as much this week in terms of like a top score to get there. That's pretty much it for me.
JSU, any opening thoughts?
Yeah, I think for sure when we look at the chalk at the end of the week, these pieces will be much higher owned than the chalk we thought was going to be from last week, and they won't look as good of plays as those plays from last week too. Those are two things that just are sticking out to me as like the condensed ownership of the two most popular games. You're going to see some of those guys have big number ownerships. I'm talking 25, 30%, which we didn't really see last week, right? We saw it a little more spread. We didn't really see anyone in that 30% range in most of the large field GPP stuff. I think we will in this, and we'll get to like the specific guys that are probably going to hit that number, but I think there could be a couple that get to that point. So this is where, tournament leverage and making fades of guys in tournaments because of ownership is probably more of a better way to go in these type of spots when they're that highly owned. But again, if you have conviction on a guy, you just think he's a lock of all lock, then you should just play him no matter what. Like if you just think a guy's ultimately the best play, that's fine. Get your leverage elsewhere. You could eat a few pieces of chalk. I think that's another thing. Like don't be afraid in good lineups. Most lineups you're seeing win, you're not seeing 5 to 1% ownership throughout the entire lineup, right? You're seeing 30%, 15, 10, 15, 3, 2, 1, 10. You know what I mean? Like it's spread out. It's the total number of ownership. And Bobby does a really good job of trying to make lineups like where he kind of hits his total ownership throughout the lineup. I think in tournaments really well, and he could probably speak to it better than me, but I think that's more the key. I think people get it confused sometimes. You're going to still play some chalk. It's just, you got to be okay, with the accepting the chalk fades and sticking to your guns with those guys and playing the guys you ultimately think are the best plays with the leverage plays to finish out the lineup.
I remember sending the $5 winning lineup over to Bobby. I was like, it's completely all chalk with like Pittsburgh D. And I just pulled it up. It was Mahomes, but it wasn't like it wasn't like it was Mahomes to Kelsey. Right. Let me see if
single stack out of a million people, single stack.
Yeah, single stack. Wasn't even no bring back, right? Wait,
no bring back.
Dude, the $100 Millie. Did you guys see the $100 Millie? He had Baker Mayfield as his fucking quarterback.
Yeah. But Saquon Gibson was like kind of a lowish owned running back play, but like made all the sense in the world. He wasn't like there wasn't fooling anybody. Dobbs was in there, who was terrible. We had 8 fantasy points, but he was the cheap play that everyone was playing. Pittman, Christian Kirk, Justin Jefferson, and then the Steelers D. That easy. It's that easy to turn 5 into $1 million. Yeah.
That easy.
Anyway, so what I always do to start the slate is I'm looking for plays. I'm looking for play volume first, and I see that I look at the blitz plays. They have Tampa Bay, New Orleans as the highest plays game. Now that game scares me. So, but I'm sure the blitz will be spitting out plenty of guys from that game. Carolina, New York Giants is the next highest. Then Atlanta at the Rams. And then he does have down at number 5, Arizona at Las Vegas. And then I just always look at Thorman snaps and pace from over at ETR. They have Arizona Raiders, Atlanta Rams, Carolina, New York Giants. So the two coinciding the three games that look to be the fastest paced games are Arizona, Las Vegas, Atlanta, the Rams, and Carolina, New York Giants. But and then every other game just looks, we're just going to have to dig through and find the plays. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off at the running back position. We're going to give you kind of identify the chalk, give our thoughts on it, and then give you guys some plays. And then we're going to go over to quarterbacks, and then that'll seem segue right into wide receiver. We'll talk about stacks, and then we'll close it out with tight end. This week, I might let Bobby give a couple defensive plays because I know he really wanted to last week, but
I did.
I'm gonna say that just he was all over the Steelers D, so we'll give him the chance here to.
I definitely wasn't on the Steelers D. But
all right, I was trying to. No one knew I was. Nobody knew I was lying. Jesus, take the credit. All right, so running backs. This is where we have the chalk, right? So the first play we're gonna bring up here, this Saquon Barkley, he looked electric again, right? He had 4 rushes of over 10 plus yards. He had 164 rushing yards, 18 rushes, 7 targets, 83% of the snaps, which is exactly what I talked about last week for those games that he was healthy for that 3-game stretch of last season. It was 84% of the snaps last year. It was 83% this time, right in line. He had a 33% target share of the offense. He's facing Carolina. This is a game that both of those, both Cardi and ETR, they like the pace of. Carolina gave up 187 yards last week to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And the Giants are actually favored. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
I had to do a double take there because I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Not since Eli was beating my Patriots. All right, so he's going to be a chalk. I don't see anything wrong. I mean, if he's the way that I think he is, and he's healthy, and their offensive line has improved, which is a big thing, and the kind of he's kind of works in both game strips. If they're behind, it's going to be target, target, target. If they're ahead, it's going to be run, run, run. And so if he's the guy I think he is, then 7,300, this is the last we're going to see at this level. Unless I'm wrong. What do you guys take here on him?
I think you're 100% correct. Like, they seem to want to run this offense through Saquon. 7,300 basically made the case for that prior to week 1 with CMC, and he was at 8,500. I really like Saquon in this spot. I'm going to be looking for reasons to fade him all week because it looks like all weekend because he's at 30% ownership, but I'm definitely going to end up just playing him. Yeah, it's just tough to get away from him, really. There are guys underneath him I think are interesting. Nick Chubb never gets played. He's right around that price tag in a good matchup versus the Jets. And Swift in that dome game that could be very high scoring or could be very ugly with Detroit and Washington's right there as well. So those are 2 guys I would, if I was fading, I'd have some interest in. I think there's reason to have interest in them anyways, but right now I'm playing Saquon.
Yeah, I think that you guys brought up a lot of good points about what he did last week, and the fact that he's going to be involved either way, like Kirkwood said, it just makes sense, right? Like, he's going to get volume in the passing game. He's going to get the touches on the ground. He had the highest snap share of any running back, highest target share. Like, you're just looking at this and you're just saying, if he's going to get close to this volume, he's still mispriced at 7,300. You know what I mean? And like Kirkwood said, this might be the last time we see him here. If he's getting this type of volume consistently, I mean, we're talking about the top tier type of volume. So we're talking about him in the 8,500 to 9 something range, that CMC, Jonathan Taylor, like we're talking about that type of range in volume, right? And if we're talking about close somewhere in that area, then yeah, he's still mispriced and he's a really good play. And like Bobby said, tournament players will look for reasons to fade him. I ultimately just think, though, he's a really good play, and Carolina couldn't stop Cleveland on the ground. I think they might have a tough time stopping Saquon on the ground too. So either way, though, the way this game goes, Giants winning, Giants losing, he's going to be involved. So I like Saquon here.
And we're so used to him. So like athleticism and talent and has never been the issue with him. It's always been injury and a horrible offensive line and no other weapons. And, and they are thin. They do have some interesting things going on at wide receiver, but still they have an improved offensive line. They look better. I think they're going to keep improving. I think they're going to be an average team this season, and average is good for like Saquon because he's above average, right? Like, and he's getting all that look. So I love that play. The next highest owned guys. We should probably talk about Leonard Fournette a little bit. He's just a little bit lower at 6,700. He looked good. He had 21 rushing attempts for 127 yards. He didn't find the end zone. He had 2 targets, 18 or almost 19 fantasy points. The thing that sticks out, 76% of the snaps, 2 of 3 running back red zone opportunities. Saints have always been tough to run on, but they just allowed CPAC, Cordero Patterson, to just absolutely dust them last week. So maybe they aren't that stout anymore. They're only another negative for Fournette is his offensive line is injured. Their receivers are banged up. Godwin is out. I mean, playing him like they did was just crazy to me, but he's gone. So I guess that's probably a boost. Like, who looked awesome? We'll get into wide receiver, but Julio looked awesome. I thought we'll get into that.
He's on the TB12 diet.
Yeah.
He's on the. They said he's on the TB12
but
diet.
he like hurt his back and like did you see him? He was like he almost.
He always hurt something.
I know. He almost made that amazing catch on the sideline, a deep one, and he just missed it. It was a great play. But he got up all hobbled, but he came right back out, which is not what we're used to. I had to do a double take for that because I was like, oh, he's gone, he's done. But he came back in, so that was a great sign. So
again, if you want to play your Julio, you better get it in early because, like Kirkwood said, he might be heading towards the injured list in a little bit because he always gets nicked up. But I got to take on this game because I know Lenny's going to be popular. We got to take stands somewhere with some of these chalkier guys. And I don't really love this game as much as maybe the blitz does for offense. The Saints have played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tough for a while. I think Tampa hasn't beat them since like 2018 or something like that. I don't know if that's 100. You guys could fact check me if you want, but I'm pretty sure they haven't won in a while against the Saints. Saints have had their number, and I just think this is going to be more of like a slug it out type game where at the end of the day, there's going to be like 30 points scored in this game. And it's just going to be like a slower paced game where, at the end of the day, it's close and it's a battle. And both these teams are struggling to kind of put up points. You talked about the offensive line issues. Donovan Smith, the left tackle for Tampa Bay, is out. Tristan Wirfs is questionable, so we have to wait on him. He's one of their better linemen as well. So those are definite big issues for Tampa Bay. They can't afford to lose any other offensive linemen. Already losing Jensen for either the season or he says maybe he comes back at some point. But that was a major loss. He was like he was the biggest piece of that offensive line. The dude was just an animal. So losing him already, it's interesting. And then all their receivers are questionable or are out. Godwin got hurt again. He's out. So Tampa's going to struggle. I think Tampa Bay, it's a team that everyone's just predicting, oh, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. And I don't know. Like, I'm not like just jumping them up to the top just because, like, I think the AFC is way stronger than the NFC. So that could be something that maybe they have a little easier path, like in general, but I just don't know if they're that team anymore. Like, I think Brady's still fine. He's got issues himself with the home stuff. I don't know. Him and the wife aren't staying together or something. I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues going on. There are a lot of rumors and things going on with that. But I mean, and he's 45 years old.
Well, the age has never played a factor with him, right, Kurt?
I know, but like eventually something it's going to some point.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. I get you. Like Lenny doesn't feel like the smash play as some of these other guys do. But the next guy, and Bobby, give your take too, but then we'll segue into Darrell Henderson. Is it Daryl or Darrell Henderson?
Darrell. I think it's Darrell.
Yeah, it's Darrell, but I always forget. It's like I still get Devers wrong, and I'm a Boston guy. Like Devers, Devers. It's just like one of those. But Henderson's going to be chalk too, and I got some takes there. But Bobby, what are your thoughts with Fournette?
Pretty much the same aligned with you guys. I think Fournette, they might lean on him just because the offensive line is so banged up, and Brady's not going to really have a ton of time to throw with that. We'll at least try to lean on him as the game begins. But with that D-line from the Saints, it's bad for throwing and running the football if you have no offensive line to really speak of. So I don't know how much I'm on the Tampa Bay side in this game.
All right. Henderson, 5,700. Everybody whiffed on the opening night with their Cam Akers projections.
Hey! Don't put me in everyone's boat.
Everybody but JSU, which is that's when he has a take.
I'll throw Big T in the mix too.
I've always learned with JSU is when he has when he comes out with like a hard stance against someone that everybody else loves, or like has a different opinion. That's the time to follow JSU for sure. But anyways, actually, everyone had Akers for more of a workload, and there just wasn't. It was not a split whatsoever. It was.
They don't split Kirkwood.
He doesn't want to split.
That team doesn't split. Yeah. They like to get their running backs in a flow. You can tell that the running back rooms in the league, they're starting to shift, right? Before it was like there was a workhorse back on a majority of these teams, and they kind of rode that back. And now you can see a shift where like teams have like a running down back, a passing down back, or they've just got two like split guys that play 50-50 or 60-40 and can do a little of both. And then you have like the few outlier teams that still implement that, 80-20, 75-25 workhorse back. And this is one team. Sean McVay has always done this where he just gives whoever he sees as the best chance of him, winning. He's giving him the lion's share of the carries and the work in the backfield. And it's always been beneficial for fantasy, right? Like those guys have always produced in those type of situations. So that's the one thing that people forget during the off season and whatever. Like everyone just like assumes they're just going to change from what they've always done. And I didn't understand it. Like it's going to be one or the other. Why are you assuming any different? Like it's never that way. I don't care who comes out and tweets about it. Like, unless it's Sean McVay literally coming out. And even then, I still don't believe him because why would he just tell everyone what he's going to do?
So how do you feel about fading Henderson this week, JSU? Because that's where everyone's kind of thinking.
I want to do it so bad. I feel super uncomfortable doing it, though. But everyone's going to start their teams with Saquon and Henderson.
So, okay.
Problem.
Would you be absolutely shocked if Akers gets a role in this?
I'd be stunned. I think
I kind of wouldn't. I kind of feel like we're just always going to get it wrong with like McVay.
Oh God. They're going to be like San Francisco, where we literally can't predict anything with their backfield.
I don't know. It seemed like so. I guess it's because he's kind of dusty since coming back from the Achilles or whatever. But I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if like he was just trying to make a point and get him going this week or something. I don't know. All I know is I don't know. But I know that everybody else thinks they know. Like over on like the Blitz chat now, everyone's like he's an absolute lock, and so it's like whenever someone's an absolute lock, I'm like trying to figure out the way the fade, right? Like I want to fade. Yeah, the only thing is, so he's cheap, right? And he got 81% of the snaps, so that's amazing. Falcons are pretty good against the run and traditionally have been good against the run, but they've always been bad for passing backs. I just don't know how much of that he's going to get. And then it's not the best matchup. There's at least a little bit of concern for a question mark for me, but because I'm just not ready to bite and say that, okay, it's official. Akers is going to be on the bench all season this season. You know what I mean?
Well, it might not be all season, but it's not going to be week 2. I just don't think. It could happen at some point where they switch roles, but I just don't see it happening this fast. Obviously he's not shown them enough. Like you think 1 week of practice is going to be enough where he's like, okay, he's there.
I'd be pouting in a corner. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't know. Like to me, I'd be shocked if they use Cam Akers, but I agree with you that like the Atlanta Falcons they're decent against the run specifically, and obviously people didn't take into account that the Rams are, they're not as good in the offensive line as they were last year. Obviously, with Whitworth retiring, their left tackle, like that was a huge downgrade for them. They ran so much through him and on his side and leaned on him, especially in run plays, and just obviously as the leader of the offensive line, like it was just a massive downgrade, and you saw it instantly. Like Noteboom just got bullied that entire game by Von Miller. Like when a team can just rush 4 and 5 the entire game and consistently get pressure, hurries, sacks on your quarterback, that is not good. That is very, very bad when they're just doing it the entire game. There's no change, right? They're not like doing different things and disguise it. No, like they're just doing the same thing they're just pinning back 4 guys and they're consistently getting to you. That's really bad. And they were just owning that offensive line. So that is one thing that worries me for that team in general, like going forward.
And then the other thing is that, so the thing that's in his favor is that, they're a 10.5 point favorite or whatever they are, that, it could be a run heavy game script. What are you doing with him, Bobby?
So I think you made an interesting point. Like if he's going to get there through the air, his like over for receptions is over 2.5 with the juice on the over. I think it's relatively low, right? Like 2.5 catches. There's a ton of guys in this range that you can make a case to fade him with. Antonio Gibson in that Detroit-Washington game, we've seen him get a heavy workload last week. I would expect that to continue. Same game, Cordell Patterson played great last week. No Damian Williams this week. I think he's interesting. Rams can give up. They really struggled versus the run last year, I feel like. And I think that's a good way for Atlanta to attack them. Zeke looked good at 6K, at 5'9", actually, last week. I don't mind him versus the Bengals defense.
You're not playing Zeke against the Bengals.
So here you have to have Dak playing, because it's like they're just going to stack the box against, because they're going to just run Zeke.
Okay, no, that's fine. Cooper Rush is like
come on, you can fight back. Tell me I'm a donkey if you like Zeke. There's no way you're playing Zeke.
I never played Zeke, so like you would be right, but I just thought he looked different last week. And I think Cooper Rush, maybe I don't know, Cooper like.
Oh, Bobby, come on, no.
Cooper Rush can get the ball out. I don't think he's atrocious. I'll be playing like Bengals D. Obviously, I think everyone's going to be playing Bengals D though.
Everyone will be.
But I don't like.
Well, we're gonna let you close that out at the show. But I'm curious if you're going to play him in tournaments.
I'm curious about that too, because they obviously they made the pricing after Dak got injured, so it's tough. I usually X the chalk defense. Say Damian Harrison Stevenson, I think one of those running backs from New England in the Pittsburgh game is interesting. Chase Edmonds and Dameon Pierce, they're around the Darrell Henderson range. I think they're both strong. Chase Edmonds had a really good role in that Miami offense last week, and Dameon Pierce, there's flop lag with him, right? Like he's going up against Denver. Everyone wanted to play him last week. Public's on him. He's 4,700. It's very cheap. I wouldn't mind going to him. So there's opportunity cost in this range around Henderson, but Henderson could just be a fantastic play. And that's what scares me thinking about it.
All right. I got 3 other guys that look pretty damn interesting. So there's Javonte Williams, who got a ton of targets, and 12 targets, 11 receptions, and also, maybe less on the rushing. Like they used Gordon a little bit more of a rushing or more of a split. But I'm high on Javonte. So against Houston, after a tough loss where they could come out strong and he could have a big game, I could see Joe Mixon. He was the play last week against this could be, as their nice favorite against Dallas without Dak. They could just lean on Mixon this game. Mixon has a lot going for him. I mean, he had 76% of the snaps for him. So he had 21.5 fantasy points without a touchdown, right? Like just needs to get a little pay dirt to really go off. Led all running backs in in routes, which is interesting. They have a rebuilt offensive line, which is pretty interesting. And Dallas was 22nd in DVOA versus the run last week. I'll only have 1 week to calculate that. I wouldn't put a lot into it, but still, I think that Mixon could be in for an even better game this week. What are your thoughts with those two guys?
I would personally say that Joe Mixon, even though I like Joe Mixon and I think it's a good spot for him, I struggle with, like, is it the ceiling spot where, you know, they gave him a crap load of touches and work last game to the point where he went off towards the end of the game. I don't know if he was cramping. I don't know if his ankle or whatever was. I know they wrapped his arm at one point or whatever. So he came off twice technically, but like he didn't really play as much towards the very end of the game. And I think it was just because he was hampered, whether it be cramps or some type of injury. Now he's not, I'm pretty sure he's not on the injury report, so he's fine now. But if they're up in this game against Dallas, who's starting Cooper Rush, like, are they really going to push Mixon the way they pushed him when they were down against the Steelers late in that game? Like, probably not. But could he get there alone in the first 3 quarters and crush? I mean, yeah, it is possible. So,
dude, he saw a ton of
away, but he saw a lot of work.
27 carries. I didn't realize. I know it went to OT or whatever.
He led running backs in just complete, like, touches overall.
Yeah, 9 targets or 7 receptions. So he had 34 touches, 27 rushing attempts, 7 receptions.
Yeah.
And then we got
one of the best plays on the board. Like, he just didn't get in the end zone. Like, he did everything you wanted, and they couldn't run the ball in the first. He was running into offensive linemen early. Like, they definitely had some issues offensively early, especially that line. They just weren't doing. They weren't getting, you know, they weren't getting it done early. They weren't getting a push early. He had one, like, big run where there was a big hole and he kind of went through it and had a big gain. But, like, other than that, they didn't really do as much on the ground as I thought. Now they'll probably be better against the Cowboys, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go Javonte if you just make me choose one of them, just because I think he's in a really, really good spot. And I think that he's just ultimately going to be a stud fantasy-wise. Like, the guy got 12 targets or something like that last game. He didn't get a lot of carries running the football, but it was more like, I think game script kind of changed that too. Like, they were obviously down to the Seahawks. Like, if they were up, he probably would have had the reverse in carries, but he was gashing them on the ground early, and then he did his thing catching the ball. So either way this game goes, which I think they're going to be leading, hopefully, I think he can get it done no matter what. So I love Javonte.
Yep, I'm big on him too. And I'll throw one more name in there too for Bobby to give his thoughts too. DeAndre Swift.
I really like Swift. I like the Javonte call a lot. Like, he's 200 under Leonard Fournette is going to be chalky, and 800 above Darrell Henderson in terms of price. I think he makes for a really good play. Leverage off the two of them. I think he's very interesting. Swift's going to see these targets. I think that people are saying that he ran well just because but what if he sees more goal line this week, and what if it's not? It's just tough to. I have no issue playing Swift. I think he's one of the higher guys I have in terms of ceiling projection. So I don't hate Swift at all. And Mixon's fantastic too. Mixon might be a little bit chalkier than I think, but for good reason, right? Like, it's a great spot. Bengals D is going to be very chalky. So
one thing I'm with Bobby on too, just before we move on, is last week I told people, don't play Dameon Pierce. Rex Burkhead's still there. You want to see it week 1. Everyone's like, oh, Rex Burkhead, come on. He's not actually a thing. Obviously, he ends up leading the snaps. You know who you are. Like, everyone was saying it. No one thought Rex Burkhead was going to be a factor. Not one person.
What about Nick Chubb?
I said Sexy Rexy was going to get some work. I think I remember. I was
you
saying,
did?
So yeah, I think so.
Like,
we'll have to rewind the tape. We'll have to rewind the tape.
Oh, well, forget about the show. Everyone I talked to who was playing Dameon Pierce was not even remotely concerned about what Rex Burkhead could do. And I know for a fact he was popular because of that reason. Like everyone thought it was just Pierce's show. I think this is the ultimate flop leg, though. I agree with Bobby on that 100%. If you think Houston can even hang around remotely in this game, like just even a little bit, it's not in a blowout too. He probably still gets run. You know what I mean? So I guess it's not terrible because he probably still gets some run in a blowout. But if you think they hang around, I think Dameon Pierce makes a lot of sense in this because no one's going to be on him this week. Everyone's pissed off who played him that he got like outsnapped by Burkhead like majorly too. Like it was a big number. It was like 70-30 or something like that. So I think he's the spot to go back to. And I think Denver can be gashed on the ground. Rashad Penny had some big holes on that right side, some big runs. And there was a couple that got pulled back because of some penalties, but it could have been even bigger day for Penny, I think, on the ground. But there were some openings for him, and people might not have realized it because he only ended up with like 64 yards on the ground. But I thought he looked good, and I thought that Denver could definitely have had even worse on the ground. So I think a team will exploit it. I think that's going to be a spot where Denver struggles during the year. I was just surprised they struggled a little more in the secondary early. I thought that was kind of interesting. There was a few like breakdowns, like complete breakdowns. But I think Dameon Pierce makes for a really good tournament play this week.
What about Nick Chubb? Nick Chubb versus the Jets? Like he's gonna obviously people don't want to play him on DK. He's right there with Swift and Saquon in terms of pricing.
I mean,
you're a big Nick Chubb guy.
He's a stud, Bobby. You know I love Nick Chubb. I wish he didn't have like the 50-50 him and Kareem Hunt. It drives me nuts because I think Kareem Hunt is like super good too, and it stinks that like it's not a lesser guy because like Kareem Hunt can kind of finish off Nick Chubb's like drives where Nick Chubb gets him down. He does a lot of the grit and the big work, the leg work, and then Kareem Hunt just friggin' finishes it off, and you're tilted. But the ownership is good leverage in tournaments, right?
We all have that recency bias from last week and obviously last year with Hunt. What if Chubb has the 2 TD game versus the Jets?
No, I agree with you. It's probably actually in tournaments. It's probably just a great play because 200 under Saquon. He's a couple hundred more than Lenny and Javonte and DeAndre, like Swift. Like all those guys are going to be way more higher owned than Nick Chubb. So if you're just thinking about it, like Cleveland's got a really good offensive line. They're going up against the friggin' Jets who are awful. They can't move the ball at all. So it's probably going to be a plus game script for Nick Chubb. And like you said, what if he finishes the big runs and scores the touchdowns? Maybe I should be in on some Nick Chubb. I think it's a good call.
Yeah, it just sucks when he loses that red zone work, like you said. But first of all, he could break a huge monster touchdown anyway on the ground, especially against the Jets. So, I'm on board. Plus, I got some Rainmaker action on those guys. So,
you had to throw in the Rainmaker action. I mean, I got the Rainmaker. What do they? The RM Chubb? Is that what you got?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. No, I don't have the R. I don't have the Rainmaker. I'm not a big dog like Bob. Bobby's the only one. I have one Rainmaker, and it's the worst one you could possibly have out of anyone. It's the Detroit Lions defense who have no showdowns, and it's their terrible defense. You can't run worse.
I got sent a free card yesterday. It was Brian Edwards.
Nice.
Trying to get me to play. I opened it up. Got a Brian Edwards. I mean, that's a way to get me in on the game. I'll tell you that, DK.
All right, quickly, we're at 48 minutes and we haven't hit on any quarterbacks yet. We'll try to speed it up, but give me your last final thoughts. We never touched on McCaffrey. We never touched on Jonathan Taylor. Or if you got another favorite pick that you haven't mentioned, throw them out there.
Yeah, CMC and Taylor, no one's talking about them. Taylor's up at 9,900. playing against Jacksonville, like if Pittman sits or if Pittman plays either way, like I would definitely have some interest in Taylor. It's just a matter of the opportunity cost at the running back position. It's pretty loaded from top to bottom. So he's kind of getting lost in translation, which could make him a good tournament play. Christian McCaffrey, worried about the workload with Baker, but I feel like everyone is. And just how that game kind of just played weird. Like I think they only ran 50 plays. So the fact they only ran 50 plays, like if they run more plays, CMC, he did well in the 50 plays. Like you definitely do well again. And he's only 400 more. I think he's 8,900 now. Like I think they're both phenomenal tournament plays. I just haven't dug in enough to be like, I definitely want to play these guys, but it's definitely differentiated in terms of construction.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to be forcing in these guys. Again, we still have running backs that we've talked about that are kind of all in good spots. They're a little cheaper. There's some leverage plays in there too, where I don't know. It just might not be a spot where I definitely want to just spend up in all my lineups. I might want to spend up a wide receiver. So it's going to cause me to maybe not spend up at running back. I do think they're going to get ownership. Everyone's talking about like, oh, Jonathan Taylor, he's getting lost, and he's not going to get lost. He's going to end up being 10, 15% at the end of the day. All the people that say he's getting lost, he will end up being 10, 15%, and which is great. It's still leverage on the field though, right, guys? Like if you want to play Jonathan Taylor, like, and get leverage, like 10, 15% in tournaments for, he was like the number one pick in fantasy football. Like that's fine. Like I'm fine with doing that. It's just probably not going to be what I do this week, but I'm not going to say it's like wrong.
All right. Anybody you guys want to throw out there as a last final play, or are you ready to move on to quarterbacks?
No, we talked about enough running backs.
All right. Quarterback. It's not like it's super sexy like usual. It's so it looks like the chalkiest one is going to be Derek Carr, who was somewhat chalky last week, but that's just because of the high total, because of his offensive weapons. He didn't put up a big game last week, and he was somewhat popular. But Devontae Adams looked awesome. He certainly tried to force feed him, and Arizona. Just their secondary is in shambles, and they ranked dead last in DVOA from last week. Carr does have a history of busting in high total games, but he's never been with this. He never had Devontae Adams. You guys seen the Devontae narrative, the grandparents narrative floating around all over Twitter?
Yeah, he was like crying at the press conference or whatever.
Yeah,
or
he's
like
all excited
whatever.
for his grandparents to be able to finally see a game that he's played in live.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
I don't think it matters personally. I think he's Devontae Adams. Like it's not like we're talking about some like nobody who's like, he's going to get his first shot, and we don't.
Let's
really
manufacture touches for Devontae Adams. That's what they do every single play.
He had 50 touches last. He had 50% of like the share of targets for a wide receiver. Like think about that. For every two, he had one of every two passes to a wide receiver for that game last week. Like
50% target share, 17 targets, 10 catches. But anyway, so Carr's interesting. Still has Waller there. So definitely they have more weapons. He did play poorly, but he actually led all QBs in air yards last week, which is, if only air yards gave us fantasy points. But anyways, another guy who's going to be somewhat popular maybe. I don't know. I don't really have a strong take here because I know that all these guys are going to get some ownership, but there's not going to be massive chalk. I know Matthew Stafford's going to get some ownership because of the high implied team total. I know Lamar Jackson is probably the top of the top. I think maybe it's either between him and Kyler. But there's a lot of worries there with both of them actually, because Lamar didn't run, right? He ran for 17 yards last week, certainly aired it out, but didn't run. So that's a concern. Then there's Kyler Murray has, a lot less weapons. Everyone's hurt, doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins, has always struggled without DeAndre Hopkins, but is in that same game. And then, if there's another guy with rushing upside who might get kind of popular, but absolutely stunk last week is Trey Lance against Seattle. But this is a good bounce back spot for the 49ers. And that field looked like hilarious, actually, what they were playing in. It was like they were playing in a monsoon. So I don't think that really matters much. I mean, maybe there's a lot to be concerned about, but I don't know if we can say that yet. We'll find out this weekend, right? But those are kind of the guys. Maybe Carson Wentz gets some ownership because of his performance last week. Maybe Russell Wilson gets a little. Maybe Daniel Jones gets a little. I like Daniel Jones personally. But how do you guys see the top working out? Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think for cash games, quarterbacks are going to be Carr and Trey Lance. They're kind of in the middle. But, yeah, my favorite would be Lamar up top. I think he's going to have to run more this week. Miami does a ton of blitzing, and he's just going to be forced because of situational blitzing. Outside of that, Joe Burrow, 6,600. Like, no one's going to play Joe Burrow this week, and they're playing in Dallas in the Dome. I love Burrow to chase this week. I think it's very interesting. I know everyone's going running back heavy. Everyone's going to go to this 50-point total in terms of quarterbacks. They're not going to look – maybe Burrow gets lost because people just want to play Mixon, play Kyler and Carr, and just not kind of overlook just playing Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow could have a big week. Stafford at 6,300 I find interesting. I don't know why you wouldn't play him with Kupp. Obviously, Kupp's going to be a little lower owned. He's at 63, and then for lower, I know we're talking just the high stuff now. Kyler is like I just don't think I'm in the group of Kyler isn't good at football. He's fine for fantasy. Depending on where his ownership comes in is going to be pretty interesting. Like I think he's going to be under-owned, but then I think at the same time everyone's going to be playing Adams, everyone's going to be playing Renfro, everyone's going to be playing Waller. So his ownership might get a little bit more inflated to where like it doesn't really matter at quarterback, but if you're playing him with Dortch, I would be a little bit skeptical. If you're playing him with, I would just play him differentiated. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it up top.
You know, Kyler's great when he runs. Like that's what he's got to do more. And also, the thing with him is that Las Vegas' secondary is not supposed to be very good. They lost their top two corners based from last season going into this season. And they showed it in their first week where they're 29th in DVOA versus the pass from just that 1 week rating. But yeah, it's just scary. He just doesn't have the weapons, right? Like you got to go back to Marquise, I guess. But like, who are we? We'll get your take on Dortch, the Dortch man, Greg Dortch, who's all of a sudden in our lives now as a chalk. He's the chalk cheap wide receiver play this week. But what are you thinking at quarterback, JSU?
Yeah, so I've talked about myself that I am a fan of Derek Carr. I think he's good. I know he's gotten flack for a lot of years from a lot of people. I just though can't play him when he's going to be the most popular play on the slate at quarterback. Like I know that's still not that much. It's only going to be like probably 15%, which I do think he gets to 15 just because everyone stacks now in football, and who's the most popular receiver? Devontae Adams. Darren Waller's going to get ownership, like Bobby said. Hunter Renfro,
Renfro.
And then the other, and then the bringbacks are easy because it's condensed because all those wide receivers are out for Arizona, and they got James Conner, who's a lead back and a cheap tight end. So it's easy to kind of plug Greg Dortch in, who's going to be very popular at a cheap price. Plug Marquise Brown in the mid tier. It's just an easy game to stack, and it's the obvious because it's the only 50-plus point total. So I do think he gets that type of ownership, which is fine. I'm not going to play him, though. I think if I had to play someone in that range, though, it'd probably be Trey Lance. I do think that Seattle's probably the worst defense. They might be just the worst team in general in the NFL. And they lose Jamal Adams. He's out for the year with the torn quad. I mean, I don't think that matters that much now, but like at the same time, I think San Francisco is going to put it on them this week. Like, I think we're going to see how bad Seattle actually is. And I think San Francisco, Trey Lance is going to run. He's going to use his legs. I think he's the guy I'd look at kind of in that 57 to 6,300 range. Other guys, I'm not on Lamar. He looked bad. He looked really bad last week. Like, he had the big play to Bateman, and then he had the other touchdown towards the end of the game. But, like, he kind of got there, but it was kind of lucky he got there towards the end. Because if you watch that first half, you weren't feeling great paying up for Lamar after that first half. You were, and I played him. So I was one of these people. I was very, very nervous going into that second half because I was like, man, he's not running, and he don't look that good. Like,
I was feeling great. Because I had Jets D everywhere, and then it just fizzled on me.
God. Yeah. So Lamar, to me, if he's not running, like, what are you paying $7,400? I think Miami wins too. That's another take I have. I think Miami's just a better team than the Ravens.
Shout out to your call on the Giants last week. Easy winner, Giblets.
Thank you. That's Giblets right there. Moneyline Giants. They got it done for us. But we move on. And other quarterbacks, I would prefer Kyler over Lamar. And I agree with Bobby. He's probably not a good football player. He's probably not a great quarterback. But for fantasy, he can still get it done. And if the Raiders are scoring points, which I think they will, regardless of how you see it, I think Kyler's going to, put up some points. I don't think they're going to get like just completely shut out by the team. It's just, do I want to spend up at quarterback will be the question. It'll depend on my builds and stuff like that. But I think I'd at least put him in the pool. And then cheap guys, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. Like, if you like their targets, some of those wide receivers, which I do like, I think you're going to look to some of these quarterbacks. I mean, they're really cheap too. So you don't need the 32 Wentz gave you last week. Like, they're cheap enough where they give you in the 20s and you're going to be really happy. So, and I do think there are points scored in that game. So I definitely think I'll look there for stacking purposes. Trying to see if there's like anyone like
I kind of
outside.
I kind of like.
I was about to say that. I kind of like Tua too.
I just think that Tyreek can have a huge speed advantage everywhere, like always, and like could go off in this game.
I love Tyreek.
Like Humphrey, like they're more physical in their play, right? Like that's how you can't be physical with Tyreek. Yeah,
they're aggressive
because he's just going to burn you.
They're also banged up in the secondary. There's like 4 of them that are on the. So,
but even ones that are good or were good or they play this very similar style of just they're physical. They get up in your face. They want to jam you, and Tyreek Hill's one of those guys you can try and be physical with, but he's sneaky quick. He's strong too for a small guy. Like he's small, but he's strong. And
no short shaming. No short shaming here.
Fine. I won't short shame. I love short people. Obviously, as a short person myself, I'm a big fan of the short people. But screw tall guys. Sorry, Bobby Gomes. But not a fan of you tall people out there. But I think Tyreek Hill, he's one of those guys. He's got like slate breaking upside too, right, Kirkwood? So that's all I'm chasing.
Yeah, that's what I'm chasing. And I got some Rainmaker.
You don't have Tua in the Rainmaker.
Dude, I have Kyler. I need Kyler, Tyreek. I do. And my favorite play this week is Debo. That he matches with your Lance. Although, like,
the problem with Debo is I don't know if he's like the best correlation play with Lance.
Yeah, you might. That's what I'm saying. You don't have.
He's awful with Lance. That's the thing.
You don't have to play him with Lance. You don't.
He's going to steal touchdowns on the ground. I think he's like. That's what's hard about this. Like
he could do it. It could be either way. It could be either way. So
but that's what worries me.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
You could do it with Lance, but you could also not do it with Lance, and it doesn't really. It's.
I agree with you. He's someone you definitely do not have to stack. And honestly, if I'm playing Debo, I'm probably not playing him with Lance. Yeah, I'm probably hoping that he scores 1 touchdown in the air and he gets the other one on the ground, and it kind of hurts Lance's like total upside. You know what I mean? And you play someone else with him.
I agree. Yeah. It's just that Lance is so cheap that maybe he gets there anyway. But I mean, if he was like 7,400 like Lamar, like of course, like he would be the perfect leverage play. I'll just play Debo.
Right. I mean, is there any other quarterback that we're missing? That I'm trying to see if there's any like stabs that just nobody's going to play.
There's Tom Brady, but you already said you're low, especially with that offensive line.
Jameis, I think people will try to make a case for.
Yeah, he's cheap. Like but what about Mr. Big T Giblets man himself, Taysom?
Taysom. He's a tight end, right? Where's he at?
That's what scares me.
He's a quarterback, though, Jameis, right? Like you 4,400.
Did he get reps last week at quarterback?
Taysom is in my best ball team that's beating both of you guys.
No way. Is he on your team?
He made it for the quarterback spot he beat all my whoever.
Bobby, listen to this guy. So he's beating us in this best ball that he didn't want to do. He was complaining the whole time. He texted me like, "Oh, I'm throwing money away. Oh, you guys are gonna destroy me." Blah blah blah. And he's beating us at the end of week 1. It's total BS.
That's how it goes.
I learned from Big T to draft Taysom. That's all I could say.
God.
All right, let's move it on over to wide receiver.
Big T declines this show, and he gets more love on the show than any of us.
Big T's coming on for a special guest.
We'll get him on. Yeah, definitely.
All right, wide receiver. Let's break it down. Devontae Adams is going to be massive chalk, but even at 8,600 looks too cheap. I mean, literally, like what you said, JSU, 50% target share week 1, 17 targets. And these are high value targets, right? Like his top value targets are insanely valuable. Arizona dead last in DVOA based on last week. He's basically week 1, first in targets, first in air yards, first in target share. So already fresh out the gate. And Carr didn't really have a good game, and he had a good game, but he left a lot on the table, right? Like, so it could just be another massive game in this matchup. So we are set. I love Tyreek Hill, 7,100. It could go wrong for sure, right? He could definitely underperform, but man, he could go off and have a monster ceiling game. There's Cooper Kupp. There's my guy Debo, who I'll talk about. And so the thing with Debo, 8 carries, 52 rushing yards, plus 33% target share. Like you 33% target share is elite in its own right. And then you're telling me he's getting 8 high value rushing attempts, especially they're always high because especially when they get down in towards the red zone is when they bust him out too. So I'm big on him. Also, I happen to have a Rainmaker with him, so I may be a little bit biased, but he's in my elite lineup. But anyway, Cooper Kupp. I mean, what do we have to say about Cooper Kupp? The dude's a beast. But Brandon Cooks is kind of cheap and has monster upside. Like those are going to be the chalkier plays. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be in the mix after a good game, but he never gets enough play for what he should based on last season. And this, I mean, the guy's just been incredible since last season, since like week 13 of last season, just nonstop. Only one game where he was below 20 fantasy points, if you count this first week, even since week 13 and last week, there's been one where he scored 15 fantasy points at Denver. So have to like him. Marquise Brown, maybe we go back to him if that game, but he's going to be popular because of how popular Carr and Adams is. He's the most natural bring back. So he's going to have inflated ownership for what he should. But there's a lot of other plays all around. We could even talk Allen Robinson, after a horrible first game, maybe there's been coach speak there. Maybe he gets a little bit more love, but what I most interesting, I want to hear your guys' take on Dortch right off the bat, and then talk about this high end. Take it away, JSU.
Yeah. I mean, Greg Dortch, a lot of people are going to play him. He's going to be popular. He's cheap. Condensed, wide receiver core for the Cardinals. I mean, yeah, he's in play. You want like 8 to 12 fantasy points. He probably gives you that outcome. He probably gets you 8 to 12 in this game. But for me, I don't know. It's just gonna all depend on lineup construction. I think there are other guys too, like in his range, that are going to be lower owned that you can pivot to. So that's why, like, I may play some in certain Kyler builds, or like where I'm building stacks of that game. If I do end up building stacks of that game with Kyler, I might put him in there. But there'll be some teams where I have pivots to different cheap guys in and around his price range. I don't just think he's a lock. I think all the cash people are just going to plug him in, and highest total in the game. That's what they like to do. So I don't think he's just a complete lock where I'm just jamming him in for sure. I think there's a ton of really good wide receiver plays. Amon-Ra St. Brown might be my favorite. Like, literally, that guy just gets it done. Like, every week, the dude is just producing. Like, even the last year, like, the guy just – I wait for him to have, like, the down game. Like, last year, like, he went on that, like, crazy, like, ride at the end where he was just crushing every week. And I'm just like, one of these weeks, he's going to have a down game. So I'm just like not playing him. And he just kept owning me every single week. Like, the guy's just good. He's just really good. I think he's the perfect type of receiver that Goff really likes and wants to throw the ball to. And I'm just going to play him. I think he's a really good play that it should get more ownership than he probably will at the end of the day, too. I think he's going to fit in that boat of a guy that everyone talks up. But then there's so many plays in this Detroit-Washington game that the ownership will get spread on some guys, and I think he's one of them. So I really like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's probably my favorite just guy overall. Devontae Adams is like you said, he's such a good play. Tyreek Hill is going to be a volume monster for this team. I said it before the season started. This guy is going to be the rack 'em up receptions type guy for this team. And if he makes big plays, like creates yards after the catch, that's where he's going to have like the monster 150 in 2 games. Because I think it's going to be tough for Tua to not only see him, but hit him down the field on certain plays, because he's got the lame duck arm still. Let's not forget. But they'll put him in the right position to make the plays, and Tyreek will do the rest. So I have confidence that
he had a nasty catch last week where he jumped like super high when it looked like he had no chance at it. Like in
no, Tyreek is nasty. Like, yeah. I'm with you. He's definitely nasty, and he can definitely make big plays out of just like small, normal, like 5-yard, ins and outs. So like he's a really good receiver play. And then Christian Kirk, another volume guy who I think is just, he's going to be the guy that they pepper targets to out in Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is going to be playing in, game scripts that are advantageous for Christian Kirk for most of this year. They're not that great of a team, so they're going to be down trying to come back in a lot of games. And I think that's where Christian Kirk can be a big target monster for their team. So I really like him. A guy that no one's probably going to be on that I like a little bit more than the field is Terry McLaurin. I think at the end of the day, if you just look at the ownership of that game, he's probably the lowest owned of every solid play in that game, like for sure. I think he ends up being under 5%. And it mainly has to do with the fact that he got outplayed by the 2 cheaper receivers last week. They outscored him fantasy wise, and everyone
he had
watched that
only
game.
4 targets. He had a TD, but if he didn't get that
4 targets,
he didn't get that TD.
Late.
Yeah,
the TD was late. Curtis Samuel was a target monster. Johan Dotson had the 2 touchdowns. Everyone remembers that, and they're cheaper. So I think this is a big game for Terry McLaurin too. Detroit, that secondary is bad. The defense is going to give up points, and they play a lot of man. That Terry McLaurin can burn anybody one-on-one. So you give me Terry McLaurin against Detroit secondary, I'm going to take my chances with some over-the-top production there.
In the dome, too. In the dome. Always important. Yeah, Bobby, what do you think? I got one play I'm going to also throw in there. So T. Higgins, his father passed away, so he was out of practice this week. I mean, how can you not root for this guy? And then also, like, you hope that they are like, okay, we're playing Dallas. We're going to win this game. We're going to get you some love here in this game to, support him. Little narrative play.
Yeah, no, I like the Higgins call. I really like Chase, to be honest, but the narrative there with T. Higgins makes a ton of sense. I think you guys hit on two really good plays. McLaurin with Curtis Samuel and likely Dotson being chalk. I think that's very interesting. And Kirk, I love the Deebo Samuel call just because like he's getting the rush yards and then he's getting the 33% target share. Play him individually. I think he's a really good play. Kirk, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, those two receivers, they're just volume like hounds. I would definitely have them in my player pool. And Cooper Kupp at 9.9, like Kupp, are people going to be low on Kupp? Like they're never really low on Kupp. Like 14% ownership versus Atlanta. They really struggle versus slot receivers in the past. I'm definitely going to have shares of Kupp in one way or another. Outside of that, like from the wide receiver position, I think Brandon Cooks is going to end up pretty chalky. And like you hit on Kirk and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I think I'd rather just play them. Patrick Surtain's pretty good there in Denver. I know you don't want to like overthink cornerback wide receiver matchups, but I don't know. Just if he gets too chalky, he's someone you could come off of. Yeah, outside of that, I don't know. I don't like the Tampa Bay. Mike Evans is gonna pop in projections. I just don't have any interest in playing the Bucs this week.
I've got and the other side of that game. We should talk about Michael Thomas, who struggled the first half with his Jameis connection, but certainly turned it on in the second half. 8 targets, 5 receptions, 57 yards. Most importantly, 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to get steamed because, one, the blitz always loves him and is spitting him out right now. And, I mean, if he's back, it's just too cheap, 5,800. And also with Kamara being out potentially, if he'll shoot up, especially if Kamara's out. I kind of want Kamara to play to keep maybe some ownership in check for Michael Thomas, because I think he is kind of overlooked at this point. I think is the way I'm seeing it.
The Olave too, like he's a guy who could get going versus Bucs secondary, so I don't mind either Thomas or Olave. Landry at 11.
I think Landry's the best play if I just had to pick one.
Yeah,
I think I'm not getting fooled by Michael Thomas's 2 touchdowns. I think Jarvis Landry was the best play last week. He obviously he didn't score, but 7 receptions, 9 targets. He was running some deeper routes too. I think he can kind of do some damage over the middle against this Bucs team. I'm not playing Michael Thomas. That's another play. I'll let the people chase the 2 touchdowns. I'm not going after it.
Interesting. That goes with the rule that I said if people start to like one thing and the JSU says go against it, that's the time to follow. So
don't jinx me right now.
I just want to be able to blame you.
Bobby,
Michael Thomas, 200 yards.
3 touchdowns, 200 yards. It's Sunday night. I'm going to get a text from Kirkwood.
JSU buried me.
JSU, thanks for the Michael Thomas take.
Buried me.
And then he's going to go, but I still won. That's what he's going to do. After he tells me thanks.
And then he's going to show us
but I still won.
Screenshot of like 25,000. Yeah.
That's how we do it, boys. That's how we do it.
You did it last week. It's very respectable.
All right. Anything else in here? We're running out of time.
That's pretty much it. Like the other thing is like I know
Jerry Jeudy.
Jerry Jeudy's hitting every optimal. I don't mind Jeudy at all.
I think Cortland Sutton's gonna be the guy you end up wanting. Personally,
Sutton's getting the 5th round rookie, right?
Yeah, he's gonna get that quarterbacks. We the one thing that we should be honest, quarterbacks with these outside rookie cornerbacks, they're targeting those guys. Michael Pittman just got he just friggin' owned this dude last week. Like it's just gonna happen. They see the rookie. I still remember Tom Brady talking about it. I can't remember who it was, but they know every single player. These good, they know every single player on that defensive unit. They know where they went to college. They know what year they got drafted. They know everything, and they pick those rookies out. They will pick on them constantly. That was something I remember Tom Brady talking about years ago, where he was just like, "Yeah, this guy's a 6th-round pick and undrafted, blah blah blah." Like they know who they're going after. Like, and I remember calling it out one day and being like, whoever it was facing is going to have a big game. The guy crushed because you just constantly have this dude, rookie, 6th-round pick, and just ate him up. And it was just because Brady just kept peppering him, and he just wouldn't stop going to him. Just
Brady
would
would
not
talk
stop.
the guy up and then just totally attack him.
Yeah, no, that I'm serious. Like, that's what he would do too. Like, he didn't care. He's so smart. Like, the quarterbacks need to pick that up from these like veteran guys. Like,
What about Renfro?
Tom Brady is so smart. Who?
Renfro. I
can't play Renfro the way you got Darren Waller, Devontae Adams. Where's Renfro fitting in? Like,
I mean, that's the only thing is it's like you're like McDaniels. He's definitely gonna use them eventually, you know. And
I keep thinking that. That's what's getting me there.
The problem is when Devontae Adams is always open, it's hard not to get him. He's literally always open. Like,
you know what it is? It's like
he was open.
It's the Patriots. They influence everything. I was playing T.J. Hawkinson every single week in his rookie season because of Vrabel. I'm like, they drafted him just to be like Gronk, you know, and like he just busted every single week. But all right, it's that bias that we have. All right, any other I think we've nailed it. We've done enough plays. Let's move on over to tight end. This is interesting because like the pay down options are going to be Juwan Johnson. He's catching steam for 2,500 because he got some targets last week, 5 targets, 43 yards, 2,500. He helps the Bills. He's like going to be like a big for a cash games because he can fit in all these other studs. But, you know, and then there's like Albert O, who's kind of cheap and, you know, had some encouraging usage, 6 targets, 5 receptions, one important red zone look where he almost got a touchdown. But so I get that. But then we have like Mark Andrews, who I love. And like, I don't know how chalk he's going to be. I think he'll probably be the most played in tournaments. But like, how owned do you guys think he's going to be? Because if he's not too high, I love him because the Dolphins were 30th in DVOA last year versus tight ends. He ran a route on 94% of Lamar's dropbacks. Lamar hasn't been rushing a lot, you know, like if he's going to continue to not rush a lot, like Andrews is going to get have some massive games. He is first in air yards for tight ends after week 1. Kind of, you know, didn't have a good box score or game log per se, but certainly a lot of encouraging signs. So, I mean, I just look at him as just miles ahead of all of these other plays. The only other play that maybe I could be convinced on because I'm a fish and I've been playing this guy every single week that he's been in the NFL, except the game where they went to London when he actually scored a touchdown. Kyle Pitts. I mean, am I stupid for just continuing to play this guy?
I feel like you need to play him. I don't think you need to run it back with Henderson and Kupp, but him and Patterson would probably be my favorite run backs. But I get he's frustrating. He's a frustrating roster. Mark Andrews, I like the Mark Andrews call. I want to go right back to Mark Andrews. I'm seeing his ownership a little bit elevated than what I thought it would actually be. Albert O is coming in as the chalkiest. I don't mind Albert O. I just don't usually want to play the chalk tight end. Darren Waller is going to.
So the thing about Albert O is it's like not only is it a chalk tight end, but it's a chalk tight end on a team with Sutton against a rookie corner, like JSU said, with Judy, who's a massive deep threat, with Javonte, who's looked awesome, right? Like, so he's at best, he's the 4th option at best. Right?
It might be the 3rd, though, because they're taking out Hamler. Well, yeah, the 4th option. Yeah, behind Javonte, Judy, and Cortland Sutton. But Hamler's out injured, so that's the reason he's gaining the steam.
But, like, think about that. Like, we're playing at best a 4th option as chalk.
But he's cheap, obviously.
Exactly. But and then he looked bad last week. And it's probably going to take him a couple of weeks to warm up because he's so old. Zach Ertz, dusty old Ertz, at least he got the touchdown and got the 2-point conversion to salvage what would have been an awful day where he just didn't look great. But he's practiced in full this week, and he wasn't on the the final injury report. So maybe that's a good sign for him getting getting some of the dust off. And
I could definitely get on board with some Zach Ertz just because I agree with you. I think it's like he practiced in full. He's 4,500. He's not coming in super popular either in a game that's gonna be owned, right? It's gonna have ownership. There's not as many guys there. Like he's gonna be one of the top options. Like it's gonna be him, Brown, Connor, and then the rest after that. Like that's how it's gonna go. And you can say, oh, Greg Dortch did better than him last game. Well, that's fine. But like, do we think that continues? I think that Zach Ertz is gonna be one of the guys that comes out of it in the end. So 4,500, he makes a lot of sense to me. Mark Andrews won't be high owned. I think he's like 15% Kirkwood because
but
there's like too many high owned like wide receivers and running backs people want to pay for. I don't think people want to spend up a tight end. I think that's why the O's. I think that's why the Albert O's, the Higbees, the Juwan Johnsons, TJ Hawkinsons, these guys are going to be higher owned because they fit the common roster build, which is I want to play one or two of Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Saquon, and like McCaffrey or Taylor. You know what I mean? Like they want to play like two of those guys, you know? So to do that, you're going to have to sacrifice at a position and in a big way too. So going down to a 3,700 tight end in a cheap defense, which is what everyone's going to do on this slate, helps you get in two of those studs.
Yeah, but like I just see such a massive difference. Like I said, you look at Alberto and you've got like at best the fourth option in a matchup where maybe the game is controlled anyway and they lean more run heavy. And then you got in a game which should be competitive, I think it's going to be a good game, Baltimore and Miami. And you got a guy who's running routes as a tight end on 94% of the draft backs is the clear number one option when they don't really have a strong running back right now, right? Like, and Lamar's not running. It's just like, it's like staring me in the face. Like this is like the easiest play.
I think you're right on Andrews, dude. I really like Andrews too. It's differentiating the construction a ton at the tight end position.
I'm going to say too, like if you want a cheap tight end, everyone's going to play Juwan Johnson for like real cheap. But
can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess. Go for it.
Logan Thomas.
No, I was going to say Isaiah Likely. I think they want to get this kid involved.
I played him last week. I played him.
To me, it looked like early. When I saw him playing early in the game, I'm like, oh wow, they really want to get this guy involved. And it looked to me like he was just shaky. Like I'm sure he had a ton of nerves, it being like his first like regular season NFL game. He just didn't look right. But like the talent is absolutely there, and this dude is like a legit receiver type tight end. Like he's not like he can have monster games. So I think they need weapons like him. That's the thing Baltimore's missing. And I think that's why Baltimore is like needing him to play earlier in spots. And let's just say Baltimore gets down, he might be needed even more in the game just for his like pass catching upside. So I like the Dolphins in this game. If you think the Ravens are trailing in this game, the passing script for Andrews likely make more sense, right? So I like the tight end, however you want to shake it, whether it's the cheap guy or the expensive guy, but makes sense.
He's from Everett too. I think he's from Everett, Mass. Likely.
Is he?
Yeah, Mass guy.
Oh wow! All right, now I gotta play him a little bit. I gotta show a little love.
Friend of the show. Friend of the show.
Yeah.
Pat Fryermuth, I have a little bit of interest, but I just also want to warn everyone on my Zach Ertz love.
I don't hate this.
Don't you dare say you have an RM Zach Ertz card.
I have two. I have two Zach Ertz elites in my Rainmaker collection, so I need them this week.
Is Mac Jones playing for the Patriots?
Can we mute Kirkwood for at least 30 seconds? Is there a way?
Yeah, sure. I'll mute myself.
I mean, do the thing where you like go away for 30 seconds. Rainmakers talk needs to go on this show. We need to figure something out. We need to stop with the Rainmaker talk. I can't do it anymore.
Well, we had a comment that they said they more rainmaker content.
We need to do a solo pod. Bobby Gomes or Kirkwood need to do a solo pod on rainmakers.
I actually, if Bobby and I did one, it would be pretty funny because we would just.
I think it would be.
We would just trash how we feel like
we got suckered in.
Yeah. I just want to give the full disclosure. So Bobby, take it away. If you want a final, we never do this. We're gonna hold off on our favorite stack. And this week we're gonna do favorite stack. We're gonna do it because out of a suggestion in the comments from YouTube. We're gonna do it like it's if you have one single entry in a single entry contest. Somewhat large field, but not too, like maybe up to 1,000 entries or something like that. What's your favorite stack at this point? But Bobby, this is the segment we've now newly implemented for you. This is the Bobby Gomes defense section. Take it away.
Okay, so at defense, we have a mispriced defense with the Bengals, 2,200. Everyone's going to play them. Pricing came out before Dak got injured pretty much. Pivots, I think you can do off the chalk defense. I would definitely consider playing the Bengals in this situation, but usually I'm Xing the chalk defense. I like the Jets. They're at 2,200. I think they're going against Cleveland. Jacoby Brissett's the QB there. Not too spectacular. Although I do like Nick Chubb, so I don't know about that whole situation. Steelers D versus the Patriots, 2,800. I think they're in play somewhat. I don't know who's the QB for New England. Mac Jones had the back injury. On the other side of that game, Patriots defense versus Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky's not the greatest. They're 2,900. Panthers D would be the next one up at 3K versus the chalk Saquon and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is turnover prone. Maybe there's some leverage there with the Panthers. Raiders D going up versus the chalky Arizona. Fast-paced game. Just makes sense. Kyler sucks. It's pretty much my analysis. And then the Browns D versus the Jets up at 3,700. Those are the defenses for tournaments that I think are possibly in play. I don't know what my favorite one would be, though. I have to kind of nail it down at some point. Right now, I'll go with the if I have to pick one, let me go with the Browns paying up at D at 3,700. Wow, that's too much. I don't know why I'm paying up at D. I never do, but they're the ones that
because,
I don't know.
Bobby, everyone's paying down at defense, so you're.
Here's a rule I would consider implementing. I would consider I think everyone's going to play Mixon Bengals correlation. I would probably set a rule, like if I'm playing Mixon, to not include the Bengals D, even though that the correlation is there.
Yeah, I think
I'm not playing Mixon, but it's going to be tough not to play some Bengals here at 2,200.
All right, let's thank you, Bobby, for the defense segment. We'll do it again next week.
I like the
Please leave comments if you enjoyed Bobby's defensive section. I want to hear it. I want to hear some
defense
love
is
for
important in
Bobby.
tournaments. I think we should. I want to hear your takes on defense, both of you.
I think that's why we don't talk defense, is because we were like, it doesn't freaking matter. But anyway, all right, single entry stacks. I'm going to start off. I'm going to steal. If I'm looking to get a little bit different, but just a little bit, I think this Washington-Detroit game goes off. I agree with what JSU said. I think the obvious play is Terry McLaurin, who's not going to be owned much and has monster upside and just didn't have his game. I think Wentz is probably a good play because I think, he does have a lot of weapons kind of. If Dotson is electric. Like, he can do a lot. Curtis Samuel was like he's always been like the Swiss Army knife that can do a lot. And then McLaurin just has monster upside. And also Gibson was used a lot in the passing attack. So I think they're going to pass a lot in this game. I think it has shootout written all over it. If you get the right game script, you get lucky. So I like running it back easily with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe use a Hawkinson to a tight end. But that's my single entry. What do you guys got?
JSU, you can go.
Okay, I'll give out, since Kirkwood took that one, I will give out the Indy versus Jacksonville game here. I think this is a very interesting game for stacking purposes. In large field tournaments, I don't do that single entry, 1,000-man crap thing. I'm talking about you got one team, you want to stack up a game that's going to be probably a low-owned stack because let's be honest, a lot of these games are kind of like grouped together after like the top 2 probably. A lot of these games are going to be grouped as just like not great DFS stacking games, right? Where the ownership gets spread so far out that a lot of these will be low-owned plays. But I think you've got a condensed wide receiver group for Jacksonville, which is nice. You got Christian Kirk, who's obviously the number one. And then you've got Zay Jones and Marvin Jones, who were the other 2 wide receivers who pretty much played the entire game. All 3 of them played 70+% of the snaps. So that's nice. And then you got Travis Etienne, who has the upside, dropped the touchdown, also had like a fumble, just like didn't have a good game, but he ultimately has tournament upside. And then the Indy situation is really interesting because they got no Alec Pierce. Michael Pittman is questionable. Jonathan Taylor is going to get some ownership, but this passing game is cheap. You're going to have cheap options, whether Pittman plays or not. Paris Campbell, Austin Doolin. If Pittman's out, Stretch Hand's probably going to play on the outside. Like, he'd be interesting. He's a big target. He's like a big dude. So I think there's some interesting pieces to kind of stack up. I don't love Trevor. Like, I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to look better than he did. I was kind of disappointed. He didn't look a little better last game. And Matt Ryan was awful at the beginning of that. Like, Matt Ryan was terrible. How many turnovers? He just had a really bad game. 4 fumbles from Matt Ryan and an interception. Like, he still scored 20 fantasy points. I think he has a better game here. Jacksonville's secondary is bad too, like really bad. Carson Wentz threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, Matt Ryan is going to have some success through the air regardless of who it's to. And I think there's going to be points in this game. So interesting stack at low ownership.
I think that's a really sharp call, especially with Taylor, his pass game worked last week. And then Pittman's going to be late in terms of injury. No one's going to be talking about Ryan. That's the first time anyone's mentioned Ryan I've heard all week. For me, I'm going to go Cincy. I know everyone's going to be playing the defense. They're going to be playing Mixon, Burrow, Chase, Higgins. I think there's good leverage there. You can get them relatively low owned. Their ceiling projections aren't as high as a lot of the other stacks on the slate, and they're playing in Dallas. It's a dome. I think Cooper Rush can keep this game more competitive than people realize. Not that I think Dallas is going to win it, but maybe you can score some more points. I don't know. Keep it interesting. So, like this.
Bobby, you going to play Cooper Rush?
No, not
you have to.
I mean, come on. You just said the Bengals game for ownership. Like, get in there and tell people you're going to play 5K Cooper Rush.
I'm not playing any run. I don't have to run it back. That's the other thing. Everyone thinks they have to run it back. I don't have to run it back. I just play Cincy.
But you think there's going to be points on both sides of the game, correct? Because you wouldn't like the Cincy stack as much.
We're giving him credit for. I don't think he's good. I think he's a traditional back.
My point is, if you think that Cooper Rush can put some points up on the board, then you should play him at 5K.
I don't know who he's going to throw to. I have no idea.
No, play him, because then this is like most
Cooper Rush.
No, you're missing the greatest opportunity. You get to blame JSU if you lose.
No, wait a second. No, I'm not playing Cooper Rush. You can't blame me.
You could be like, you made me play Cooper Rush.
I'm trying to get him to accept his game.
You buried me again.
He's saying that there's going to be points scored on both sides. He should play Cooper Rush at 5K if he likes him that much. I'm trying to get him.
Maybe a man like Zeke.
I think Chase can just have 2 touchdowns and really ruin the slate for people.
Well, Chase can definitely do that any slate because he's a beast.
Yeah.
All right. Close it on out. Give him the Run Pure promo code. Let him know.
Oh, yeah. If anyone wants if anyone likes any of my breakdown on the show and they want more of it, do a few different shows over at Run Pure. We got a premium showdown show for the Thursday night football game, obviously, that I'm on with Big T and Tambo. Do a Print Factory show where we talk about the main slate with ODB, a really good better Big T and Uncle Dunkle. And then I do the Up to Lock show Sundays from 11:30 a.m. all the way to 1. I take all the questions in the premium chat for all the subs over at Run Pure Sports. Got core plays full player pool where I list all the positions and all the players I'm kind of looking at for the slate, especially if you're MMEing and you want a full player pool. I do that. So, if you want all my content, check it out, runpuresports.com, and get in the Discord.
And I'll close it out for Bobby and I, who are on Sunday mornings. What are we at? 10:30 to 11:30?
10:30 to 11:30. Grinders
Live. We had some good calls last week. I called Sherling Shepard. I know I got there because of a 65-yard bomb. But you know what? That's all it takes. But anyways, we got tons of content at RotoGrinders, everything. And the new thing that's coming out now is this scores and odds parlay correlation tool that we have. So check that out. I know I'm going to be digging into that. Check me and Bobby out. Check Run Pure Sports out with JSU, and leave some comments on the shows if you enjoy it. Sorry it takes so long, but I hope you guys are listening at like 1.5 or 2.0 or something on your podcast so you can condense the time. But
yeah, and don't leave troll comments either. Like, leave actual comments. Like, if you dislike the show, tell us why you disliked it. You don't be a troll and just like say stupid things in the comments. Like, either say you liked it or you didn't like it and why. We'll take criticism. We're not afraid. We're big boys. So just hit the thumbs up if you liked it. Write a comment, but don't be trolls in the comment section. We don't need you.
All right, and if you want to hear more Rainmaker stuff, let me know. All right, this has been the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast, week 2. We will catch you again next week for week 3. Thank you.